Hi there, my name is Peter Nolan and I'm a freshman in the Life Design Lab, and this is my journey. Throughout the year, I learned a lot, and to be honest, I didn't always apply what I learned to my work. For my project, I did a children's book focusing on embracing everyone's culture. In 8th grade, I chose this class. I'm not in the STEM Academy, so I signed up because I was genuinely interested, not because it was mandatory. I was so intrigued because just from the standpoint of having one project all year was new to me. I saw how other people's projects looked and what they were, and I immediately knew that this is something that I would genuinely enjoy. On the day we were brainstorming projects, I was asked, what 2 things am I passionate about? I said that I love writing and I am very passionate about things like fighting racism and cultural insecurities. I myself experienced a lot of insecurities with my own ethnic identity throughout elementary school because I wasn't sure who I was. I brainstormed and I decided I wanted to do a children's book. Then I got stuck. What the heck should the plot be? There were so many questions that popped into my brain, and it just was a lot for me to understand. I ended up looking into how kids experience racism and also looking back at when I was in elementary school. A major thing I found was that kids experience racism as microaggressions that they may not mean to be racist. For those who don't know what microaggressions are, they're subtle, conscious, or unconscious humiliations that members of a dominant group repeatedly direct towards more marginalized individuals of color, which can contribute to decreased confidence, happiness, and mental health, according to the National Library of Medicine. These microaggressions were often seen in mocking things like hair, clothing, food, and accents. It's often by age 9 that kids understand that there are racial biases, but even then, the concept of racism is too much to comprehend. There was one thing in particular that stood out to me: food. I remember eating food from my culture and hiding it every time I took a bite because I was scared that people would call it smelly or say that it looked disgusting, even though to me it was amazing. This was when I felt something called purpose. Purpose is something that guides you to powerfully contribute to other people while also giving a sense of personal meaning. I felt that the first time of many times when I realized what I wanted to write the book about: a story of a group of kids bringing food from their cultures to lunch. All of them are scared of being made fun of, but in the end they realize that they're all different and they have no reason to tease each other. As soon as I got this idea, I checked with Mr. Daly and he gave me the thumbs up. The first thing I did was research how to write a children's book, because it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. My next step was to write, and I wrote a lot, but I kept finding myself at a loss. I didn't know how to properly convey the things I was feeling into the book. It didn't feel personal. It didn't feel like it was truly mine. I worked a lot on refining my book, and then I got to a point where I was happy. That was one of many problems I faced in the process of making the book. Now that is what my project is and what I've gone through to get where I am now, but I have to go back to the start of the year first. I was assigned to write where I see this project by the end of the year. I wrote that I see it as a finished project. Right now, I'm sitting here with the pieces of a finished book. This is not fully published yet, and the illustrations haven't been digitalized, but I'm almost there. I also wrote that I see success as having a book to share with people, and I think when I wrote that, I didn't understand what success really looked like. Just for a bit of context, I'd always had the same view of success since probably the start of middle school. It was completing something and feeling proud of it. It was going above and beyond. It was in 4th grade when I started thinking about it, and it happened when I had a conversation with my mom. We talked about whether I want to be an average student in school or if I wanted to be more. I told her I wanted to be average because I didn't want the pressure, but as soon as I entered middle school, it changed. I felt I put myself in a place where there was always a sense of me not being good enough as others, or not being successful enough. I made up a narrative in my head that I needed to be better. I needed to have a sense of success in order to not make my parents or family proud, but to make myself proud. The past year in this class, I've changed my perspective on success because it isn't like a class where success is seen in a perfect essay or an 100 on a math test. Now, even though I don't have a finished book, I think I still have definitely succeeded. To start off, I've learned and gained so much knowledge from this class alone, more than I thought I would, to be honest. I learned how important it is to not procrastinate. I procrastinated a lot in this class. I started talking to my friends, playing games, and going on my phone. Overall, getting really off track, which 100% affected the quality of my project. There was a poster on the wall that Mr. Daly often had us look at and see if we landed on the spectrum. I was often withdrawing or participating in class, and it was very clear I was not giving it 100% or even 50% of my effort. If my past self were to see me now, he would definitely be disappointed, but I would rather take the values and principles I've learned from this class if it means I didn't have my finished project. Another thing I've learned is being motivated beyond the self. That was a term I felt was brought up a lot in class. Being motivated beyond the self means it is something that's passionate to you, that isn't just for a class. My whole life I've gone through doing projects that I wanted to do just for fun, but never something that was meaningful to me. This project opened me up to a whole new world of possibilities. I have learned how important it is to have that drive and being passionate about what you were doing because it makes it a lot more personal, not just some school project. I also learned a lot about myself, specifically how I act under stress and how I calm myself down. A really bold decision I made at the start of the process of this book was deciding whether I should illustrate the book myself or reach out and try to find someone to do it for me, as I'm not the best at drawing. This was somewhere I got stuck. I had no clue who to ask. I ended up talking to a former teacher of mine, and she told me I should reach out to Mr. Mack, a teacher at the elementary schools, to do the illustrations. I'd known Mr. Mack from a camp I did, and he was great. I ended up sending him an email, and thankfully he agreed. A huge thing I learned was how important things like communication are. Having an illustrator made it so much harder to fully coordinate the book, and having bad communication can affect the quality of the project a lot. Thankfully, me and Mr. Mack had overall very good communication, except for sometimes when I was busy or he was busy. Being thorough with voicing creative opinions was very crucial, especially when deciding what each character should look like, what the cover of the book should be, etc. Something that stuck with me was something my grandpa told me when I initially told him about my project. He told me that through all the steps and all the things we do in class, I have to ask myself why. Understanding why makes it so much easier to do the project. You're able to have an understanding about what you're doing, and it ties into that motivation beyond the self. Knowing this, I've been able to create and understand a lot more about why I am doing this. Because no child should ever feel embarrassed about their culture, and no child should ever feel insecure about their ethnicity and conform themselves to who they are. Recently, I went to Sussex Avenue School to read my book aloud to the students in a 4th grade class. This was something that brought me so much joy and so much pride. Just because this is the end of the year does not mean that this is the end of my project at all. I am setting many goals to really push myself to publish the book and also go to more classrooms to read the book in the hopes that I can help or even just educate young readers on this topic. Thank you.